John Golo with DiscountJuicers.com. Today we have another exciting episode, and I have a special treat for you guys. We're here at the Expo West 2019 trade show, and I have my friends here, the Sprout brothers, Ari and Noah Marowitz. Did I get them mixed up? Anyways, they are the sons of the Sprout Man, the famous Sprout Man that they'll tell you guys more about. But the reason for this episode is because we want to introduce you guys to the FreshLife 3000 Sprouter. This has been out from Tribest since the mid-1990s, although it has gone through several reiterations, and it is now better than ever. So I have the experts here to share with you guys the benefits of sprouting and why you guys should get a sprouter, whether you're going to do it automatically or whether you're going to do it manually, so that you guys can eat more fresh sprouts in your home. All right. So guys, first I want to say, why should somebody grow sprouts in their house?
Well, you've heard of the farm-to-table movement. This is the kitchen table-to-table movement. So sprouting is the easiest way to have fresh foods all year round. There's no soil involved here. There's no additives whatsoever. All you need is the seed, the water, and a good environment for the sprout to grow in. And this allows you to have nature's most nutrient-dense food any time of the year, no matter where you live in the world.
I would totally agree with that. Sprouts are the most biogenic, most nutritious food that you guys can grow. Super simple and super easy. So how long does it take to grow your own sprouts at home with the FreshLife 3000 Sprouter?
Well, these sprouts right here, these mung beans, are about 5 days old, and since yesterday even, they've grown about another inch, and we were harvesting about half of it for a demo we did yesterday. We're going to be harvesting the other half for today's demo and make a beautiful salad for everybody with the tahini dressing. So in about anywhere from 3 to 7 days, depending on what you're growing.
1 week from seed to salad.
Wow, amazing. So you guys can grow the most nutrient-dense foods in your home. So, even if somebody lives in Antarctica or New York City or Texas or Las Vegas, right? Even if it's 100 degrees outside or maybe -5, can somebody use this sprouter to grow their own sprouts indoors?
Absolutely. Our dad used to say from Moscow to Malibu, right?
Yeah.
You can grow sprouts 24/7, doesn't need sunlight. These are just starting to develop their leaves and their roots. So now, the next stage of their life, in that microgreen stage, it's going to start looking for sunlight and for nutrients from the soil or hydroponic additives. But at this point, all the energy to get to this stage is in the seed. It's just programming. You add water, it starts growing. So all year round, anywhere, all you do is add water, and with this unit, the water is done for you. So it's automatic. It's so easy.
Wonderful, wonderful. So why should somebody eat sprouts instead of the vegetables that they could buy at their local grocery store, their Whole Foods or health food store or farmer's market even?
Well, there's a whole number of reasons. So of course, John already touched on the nutritional benefit. Sprouts are the most bioavailable form of the plant, right? So each seed here has the energy and potential to grow into the mature counterpart. So for instance, a radish has 47 times the vitamin A of the full-grown radish counterpart. So the radish sprout is so super nutritious. And not only that, it's incredibly flavorful too, because all that flavor that would generally go into the full plant is contained in the sprout. So flavor, nutrition, and of course the convenience, and just the fact that you can be growing them any time of the year and having fresh food. We're from the Northeast. Right now it's about 5 degrees in our hometown, and yet we're still growing sprouts at that time of the year. We're not eating the produce that's been shipped halfway across the country that's already wilted and dead by the time we're getting it in the store. So, because this is really living food.
Cool. So how many of these sprouters do you guys live together or separately, and how many of these sprouters do you guys have running?
We live separately, and I've run out of counter space, and I have a pretty decent amount of counter space. I have the FreshLife running usually with 2 barrels and about 3 of our sprout bags hanging at all times. I usually have a rotation of 5, so there's 2 in the fridge with stuff that's harvested, and then 3 growing constantly. And like Noah was saying, they're so nutrient dense, but also, unless you're like John and growing your own garden and harvesting and then eating it immediately, everything else is, when you harvest it, it's severed from it, so it's dying the minute you harvest it. So even the stuff at the farmer's market's been sitting out there dying all day. This, you're eating it living, so you have the nutrient bioavailability, and you have this concentration of vitamins and nutrients, but it's also living. So we want everyone to eat greens and vegetables and healthy food, but living food and like truly living food that's harvested immediately is the real goal here, because that's how you get the most out of your plants. So John's got the ideal setup with his beautiful garden, but takes a lot of work.
Not everyone could be so lucky.
If everyone could be so lucky, but this is a way to get a lot for you in a kitchen counter in a busy city. Our dad invented his first sprouter living in the Upper West Side of Manhattan. So if he can grow it on the 12th floor, you can grow it wherever you are.
Yeah, and I'll say definitely that I'm deficient actually in living sprouts. Although I grow fresh vegetables in my backyard and I usually harvest them right before I eat them, that's still different than fresh living sprouts that are continuing to grow. I mean, these, if I pick this up, it has a root on it. I mean, this is still growing. Oops, this is still growing as I even eat it. It's quite good. You can really taste the freshness, the vibrancy, the life force, energy, the prana, the chi, the biophotons, whatever you guys want to call them, that are still in these. Oh, I got the roots coming out. That are still in these foods. Whereas if I go to my garden and just like pick a lettuce leaf, right, and even if I bring it in immediately, I mean, maybe it's still kind of growing and I eat it, that's good. But there's nutrients in sprouts that you guys can have a lot easier than growing a full garden outside.
Oh, absolutely.
So Noah, how many of these sprouters do you have in your kitchen at all times running?
So I've got 2 levels of one FreshLife in the kitchen, and then I've got a bunch of sprout bags too. And then in our office, we also have another FreshLife growing. So in the middle of the day, we can always stop and have a snack of sprouts. I wanted to add one other thing too about another benefit of sprouting, and that is that if you're on a raw foods diet, that sprouting is almost essential, because foods that otherwise you would have to cook, like a garbanzo bean, sprouting is the only way to soften that without cooking, so you can digest it and enjoy the nutrients of it too. Excuse me, choking on that mung bean.
Danger. Anyway. It's a potential danger.
So that's really that's another sprouting benefit. Is just the ability to retain those nutrients rather than cooking them. When you cook a food, of course, you're starting to kill off nutrients, and that's why we recognize 118 degrees as the raw temperature. So with sprouting, we're able to get that plant into a place where we can digest it and enjoy it without cooking it.
Right, yeah, so I mean, by far sprouts are probably one of the most nutritious foods. So real quick, sprouts versus microgreens. Should somebody buy a microgreen setup kit to grow microgreens, or somebody should buy this kit and grow sprouts? Sometimes the price is like comparable.
Yeah, so I love to compare microgreens to sprouts like this. I mean, this is a sprout. If you're growing this in a medium, in a soil, or with grow lights, if it's a few more days later, then you just harvest it right above here. So this is what you're losing with a microgreen. Microgreens are fantastic. They're still at a baby stage. They're nutrient dense. They're wonderful. If you're growing they're beautiful. They make gorgeous garnishes. I mean, honestly, this is slightly more appealing, but there are studies that link the good gut bacteria that feeds our insides and balances us contained in the roots. There's all of that energy that's gonna be sucking energy from the soil, nutrition from the soil is there in the root structure. So that's a huge part of the plant. Sometimes it's half of the plant that we're missing when we're not eating it in the sprout form. So this is a very important separation. And again, happy if you're eating microgreens, but there is a benefit to sprouts.
So I guess the answer is sprouts.
Sprouts versus
well, yeah, I mean, these are the Sprout brothers, so you would think they'd be for sprouts and not necessarily against microgreens.
And the name Microgreen Brothers just didn't work so well. So we went with Sprout Brothers.
All right, cool. So the other thing is, if it was me, right, I would like to grow a couple different layers, right? And this sprouter could have up to 3 different layers, right? And so what I would like to do is I would like to grow, different sprouts in different trays. And for me personally, I would like to harvest 1 whole tray a day and just eat it straight up, juice it, whatever you guys want to do with it. What are some ways that people can incorporate good amounts of sprouts? I don't want you guys to garnish your chicken cacciatore with like a little bit of sprouts. I want you guys to make sprouts like a sprout salad. Actually, your dad wrote a book about sprout salads.
Yeah.
But how can you really incorporate a large volume of sprouts really to get the benefits? Because although these are nutritious, right, we really need to eat a lot of them to build up that nutrition even more.
Yeah.
Well, obviously.
I was going to say, so our father wrote 2 books on that with great recipes on sprouts. He wrote 11 books, but he wrote the Sprouts, the Miracle Food has a ton of recipes and nutrient dense information about sprouts, and then the Kitchen Garden Cookbook, but also has a ton of information and recipes. There's Sprout bread and crackers. There's even Sprout ice cream. It's not Sprouts, but it's a vegan raw ice cream back from he made in the 80s for us, but we weren't allowed. Anyway, you can make Sprout hummus. You can make Sprout spacho, Sprout soup. We're going to be making that later today at our demo. We blend up a bunch of leafy greens and add some tahini and. There's a million things you can do with it, and you could just make a simple sprout salad. The sprouts that we have here, the variety, we have the crunchy bean mix growing in here, and the salad mix growing here. There's 8 different kinds of seeds, and then we have the mung beans. That alone, if you just harvested them and put a nice dressing on it or ate it by itself, that's a beautiful salad. So you can just eat. That's the meat of your meal. That's the whole thing.
And I do just want to say that, of course, we know that juicing concentrates an already nutrient-dense product. When you take it with sprouts, you're super concentrating something that's already super nutrient-dense. So juicing, if you want to take sprouts at a therapeutic level, is really when you can start to reap those benefits. And it's really important to realize that sprouts are way more than a garnish. They can be a major food group in your diet. So, and I do just want to mention one other thing. We all like different varieties of sprouts. In the FreshLife Sprouter, you can actually have up to 4 varieties per tray. There's actually 4 sections within each barrel, so you could have 12 varieties growing in your FreshLife.
So basically, probably in my opinion, the best way to use the sprouts are, number 1 is to eat them. So just pick them and eat them whole and chew them properly. Actually our mouths are our best juicers in the world, but unfortunately most people do not use them properly and turn everything into a mush so you get the optimal digestion. Number 2, I'd say probably juicing is really good because you can concentrate some of the nutrients, and of course you'd want to use the proper juicer, including like a green power twin gear juicer or a single auger juicer such as a Solo Star 4. And then next I'd say vacuum blending is a really good thing to do with sprouts because you're going to get them all broken up. And then finally I'd say just sprout salads, super simple, super easy. Just eat them in mass quantities, add them to soups. I do low temperature soups. So yeah, those are the best ways that I like to eat them. But anyways, let's get into now how to grow some of the sprouts. All right, so now I want to talk more about how to grow your own sprouts at home. So like me personally, actually while I own one of these machines, I personally don't use it at this time. I usually just grow in a jar or a sprout bag. Or, I think your dad used to use like bamboo little baskets, right, back in the olden days. Why should somebody use the machine instead of a manual method, or should somebody use a manual method?
Yeah, okay.
Go ahead.
We both have a lot to say about this.
Why don't you go first and you go next?
Okay. So you can grow a sprout in anything because a seed is it's like a rock. It's the plant. The plant makes these seeds and they're preserved. They drop down, and when they get wet, they start growing. So it's if you try and water something that's not going to grow, you'll have no success. And so the soil does a good job of absorbing that. But in sprouting, all our seeds grow. So we test all of them for high germination, and you put them, and so if you add water, it just starts growing. It's its programming. That's all it knows how to do, and it'll grow in anything. You can clog your drain by pouring them down there because it gets wet, and then it starts growing. And so what this does is this has proper drainage so that once they start growing, you're getting the proper air circulation, so you don't have any mold growing and any bad bacteria or anything. And also it does the watering for you, so it takes out a stage. When you're watering it manually, you have to pre-soak your seeds. You have to remember to soak them for about 8 hours, and then you lay them in whatever your method is. So my preferred is the sprout bag because it has circulation for the air throughout the whole thing, and then you put them in, so you have to transfer it from the water. So it's just an added step. It's very easy still. All you have to do, get it wet, and it starts growing. But you have to remember to do it. And this guy, you just put the seeds in, you put the water in the reservoir, you plug it in, and it does it for you. So you change the water once a day, but that's pretty easy. And it grows, so you have the proper circulation. It's got the tray growing, on top, so you have to train those, pesky sunflowers to grow vertically rather than on jumbled all over the place. And it just makes it super easy because it takes all the memory out of it. Yeah. Anything to add?
I think you covered it all, actually.
Cool.
It's just such a simple process.
Yeah, sprout bags, you get moldy, you got to hang them, you got to drip dry them, they're just going to drip, and this just makes it easier. If you have extra money and you would like a nice kitchen device that'll ensure you are growing sprouts regularly, and more importantly, if you do buy this device, don't just use it once or twice. I want you guys to use it on a regular and daily basis to positively impact your life. No sense in buying one of these and, oh yeah, I use it for a couple weeks and I don't use it anymore. No, you should use it for life.
Right.
How long is the warranty on this guy actually?
It's got a 3-year warranty, I believe. So you're taken care of for a little while, and even after that warranty is over, TriBest will look out for you. They'll help you out if you have an issue.
Yeah, so you have a minimum of over 1,000 days of making and growing your own fresh sprouts. So how much can somebody save by growing their own sprouts easily in the FreshLife Sprouter, over 3 years, for example?
Well, so I did a comparison. So if you're going to be eating store-bought alfalfa sprouts, which is great because we want you to eat sprouts in any form, but if you're going to be eating, it's like $3, a little 4-ounce container, those little clam shells. If you buy the seeds and you buy a grower, you can grow from a pound of alfalfa seeds, you can grow 10 pounds of food. So you'll spend, to get the same yield, to spend $115 that you'd get from buying a $12 bag of seeds. So, it's paying for itself just in what you produce from that 1 pound bag of seeds. You're almost at the full cost of the FreshLife. When you get into your second pound of seeds, the second $12, suddenly you're saving money. And if you do that, every month, for those 3 years, we got to do the math, but you're saving yourself a lot of. This is the cheapest way to get high quality organic food in your house, and it's the freshest food you can get. So growing your own sprouts, there is an upfront cost if you want to buy an automatic unit, but there's an upfront cost with everything, and it'll pay you dividends in your health for years and years and years, and through habits. And like John said, if you don't actually follow through and do it, then it has no benefit. If you buy the unit and it sits in your cupboard for forever, your basement, whatever, you're not getting anything from it. So it's all about habit. Yeah.
So the thing I want to talk about, if you guys are currently buying sprouts in the stores, number one, you're creating a lot of extra plastic waste, right? And then hopefully you're recycling that plastic. The other thing is that many people don't know is that those sprouts that you're buying in the store, may not be the most natural or organic. So do you guys want to address this?
Absolutely. Everything we grow is organic. So Noah and I, we buy seeds that are lab tested for bacteria, and we have a ton of information. We're both members on the International Sprout Growers Association board of directors, and there's a ton of information about they've been doing research with university students, with PhD students for years about the good bacteria and the bad bacteria, and working with the FDA, and organic seeds are the natural plant balance is if you test for bad bacteria, there's more balance and there's no risk. So or the risk is significantly less than the bleached seeds, the conventional seeds. So organic is very important in the sprouting stage because you're letting the plant's natural immune system protect you, whereas something else that's completely stripped of that immune system can't protect you. And so organic, very important. But on the commercial side, they are required to do a bleach solution. So there is there are risks in that where
not across the board though. That's only select stores that require.
Oh yeah, it's a suggestion.
But you don't necessarily know that your sprouts are as clean as can be. Whereas when you are the farmer, you have total control of the process. As long as you can ensure the quality of your seeds is high, and by sprouting seeds that are organic, then you know the process. It's clean water, and that's all it is. So.
Yeah, water that you'd be happy drinking. Remember that. So if we're going to eat these guys, and they take on the water that we drink. So
you want to use purified water, whatever that means to you.
Yeah.
Right.
Whatever water you're good with.
All right, guys, so let's learn how to use the FreshLife 3000 Sprouter and how easy it is to set up. So once you guys get it in the mail and you ordered it from discountjuicers.com, if you guys want to support me and my work so I can continue to make these educational videos for you guys, I appreciate that so much. And once again, link is right down below the video to buy your FreshLife 3000 Sprouter. How do you guys set this up and get it and start using it the day you get it?
Yeah. So you're going to take it out of the box. That's the first and most important step. And you wouldn't believe how many people don't know that. So then what you're going to do is you're going to take the seeds and you're going to soak them overnight for 8 hours. You'll soak them in a jar, a sealed container, and then you'll place the seeds. You'll spread a thin layer on the base tray.
So let's see the base tray here.
Yeah, or you want to show that while we're demonstrating it. So you'll lay out the seeds on this tray, and this tray is the medium. This is a soil-free grower, so there's nothing between the seeds and the tray. And you'll lay the seeds out on this tray.
So you just sprinkle this soaked seeds on the tray.
Right. And you don't want more than one layer. You want a nice light layer. If you have a second layer, then you'll end up with way more sprouts than you can handle, and they won't all fully mature. So a nice thin layer, and then you'll take the other tray and you'll put it on top.
So you're covering it.
That's right. So for the first few days while the seeds are trying to sow their roots through the tray, we want to protect the seeds from the water. Otherwise, the water will start to make divots and lines in the seed. So to keep the seeds in a nice, smooth, flat pattern, we put another tray on top to protect it. Then you'll put these two trays right in your barrel. And
carefully.
You'll do it a little more elegantly, maybe. And you'll drop the sprinkler on top, put the lid on it, and turn it on, and that's all there is to it.
So I really like showing this, which we half harvested. I don't know if you can see from there, but you can see just the tray at the bottom and the seeds where the seeds were. So there's nothing there, and so you see the hole that we've made in there, and that's just making sure you have proper airflow. And the rest of it, which isn't harvested.
So once you put it on like this, how many days does that top level stay on there?
The top level will stay on just for a few days until the seeds start to push it up, and there's about a half an inch of sprouts growing. Then you can take it off.
All right.
So and it actually helps to make the sprouts stronger and hardier. They'll be a little shorter, but they'll be hardier and stronger for it, right? Because it's like a workout for them.
Yeah, they're trying to like work their way towards the light.
Right. Exactly.
Because it simulates like a darkness and being in the soil.
Yes.
Yeah.
Sure. So 2 days with that on, and then they pull it off, and then what? Then do they have to put this in a sunny window or in a closet in the dark? I mean, what?
Even the closet in the dark is okay. The only difference is that your sprouts are going to be yellow toward the end of the growth process, and then if you do have a sunny window and you put it by, you'll see photosynthesis at work. Within a few hours they'll turn from yellow to green, but no special lighting is required, and no special temperature. I like to say, as long as you are content living in your environment, the sprouts will be content there too.
These sprouts were grown in the TriBest warehouse, which didn't have any windows to my knowledge. So this is about as yellow as it's going to get. So, it's we can hold these up a little bit.
Oh, we can just show it, right?
Yeah. Yeah, so this is about as yellow as it gets. So it's still very green, and then, like Noah said, it's about an hour even. You can watch it happen. It happens so fast. The photosynthesis is like, once these little leaves exist, and they'd be poking out of the ground just a little bit, and it would absorb the sun like immediately. It's really cool.
Cool. So if you're growing in a dark place like a warehouse or a closet, then before you eat them, should you just maybe bring them out and put them in like next to a sunny window to get them to green up, and will they be more nutritious?
Absolutely, yeah, that'd be great. It's the nutrition is negligible. There is some nutrition benefit. Again, in the book Sprouts the Miracle Food, there are tables next to it that show you the comparison between like grown without any light or grown with light. It's negligible because the leaves are so small. They're like antennas, and it's like an antenna that's tucked away still. So it's not functional yet, but yeah, it does make a difference.
So what is negligible? 5%, 10%?
Less than 5%.
Less than 5% difference.
Yeah.
All right, cool. So then the other thing is, when you start the sprouter up, obviously you got to fill the water up into the little bin here in the bottom, and then every day you need to change the water. So you want to talk about the importance of changing your water every day and what kind of water to use and all that good stuff.
Yeah, so use purified water that you're going to be happy to drink yourself, because sprouts have such a high water content that you're basically drinking that water, right? So that's really important. And of course, you do want to rinse the water or change the water daily, because especially initially, as the water is recycled, particles from the seed jackets will actually wash off through the water. And you might notice that the water gets a little grimy, especially when you're growing things like sunflowers, which have very hardy shells, which tend to have a lot of particulates that wash off into the water. It's not uncommon for that water to turn a kind of grimy color, and it could even start to smell if you don't change the water after the first couple of days. When you get later in the growth cycle, you can get away with leaving it for 2 days without changing it. If you're going to go away for the weekend or something, that's okay. But it is essential early in the process, change the water daily.
Yeah.
You know, I would reiterate, I want you guys to change the water daily above all else, because you forget one day, it could get slimy. And here's the thing, right? If you guys are growing sprouts in a sprout bag, a sprout jar, or a basket or whatever, you guys are rinsing with clean water every day. You're not reusing the water that already has been soaked through, because this comes on multiple times a day. You know, it's kind of getting a little bit, 3 times an hour. It's kind of getting a little bit funky. So you definitely don't want to recontaminate your sprouts with any of the things that are being washed off the seeds and all that kind of stuff. Plus, if you don't change the water every day, you know, the water tank will get slimy. So if somebody forgets to change the water tank gets slimy, the pump gets kind of, you know,
the tubes get clogged.
The tubes get clogged. How does somebody clean that?
That's right. There's a little door on the bottom, and all of these are full of water, so it's a little hard to show. But there's a little door on the bottom where the motor is, and you just lift the door up. There's little suction cups holding the motor down, but you can pop those up very easily. Everything comes apart. You can just spray some fresh water in there. Use a little brush. Actually, if any of you have any of the TriBest juicers, they all come with these little brushes that are great for cleaning the tubes. They're all quite just narrow enough to go through the tubes.
And we had videos on our YouTube channel that actually go in depth on cleaning the individual parts, like how to take the sprinkler apart here after maybe 10 or 15 or 20 growing cycles, and you might want to start to wash it out. So everything is cleanable, and it's all quite easy. It's just regular maintenance of the machine.
So soap and water is good enough to clean it, or should you use anything, or just
soap
water alone?
Yeah, totally.
All right, great.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it sounds like to me that this is probably one of the easiest devices to grow your own sprouts, because literally as long as you change the water every day, you put the seeds in there, it's just fully automatic.
It's fully automatic. And it's also very easy to clean, which is one of the things that, if you have a lot of sprouters where the holes are too big and the seeds get stuck in it, I mean, this, you just pull them out, and depending on the seed, they just all come out with, and then you just rinse it off, wash it off. You use some soap and water, every time or every other time. But you're not sitting there with a scrub brush, for hours and hours and hours. It may take 5 minutes of cleaning, and that's, it's like the same thing with juicing. Like if it's too hard to clean, you're not going to do it. So it's automatic, but it's also easy to clean.
Yeah. All right. Yeah, that's definitely very important. Now, I know the unit comes with one layer, one level, but you could add up to 3 levels, and I would encourage you guys, if you guys want to make a serious dent and change in your health, to, one level is great, but the cost per level is going to be a lot more expensive than if you buy 2 extra levels.
Absolutely.
And so, how does this unit function with 3 levels, and how many pounds of sprouts literally in a day can somebody be harvesting if they're growing at 3 level?
Each barrel is about 1.5 pounds to 2 pounds of sprouts, so you can actually have up to 6 pounds of sprouts growing with your FreshLife. And changing the levels is very easy. In the water reservoir here, there's a little adjustment screw that changes the amount of water pressure that's being pumped up through the tubes, because obviously when you only have 1 barrel, it takes a lot less pressure to get the water up there versus pumping all the way up to the 3rd story.
Good deal. So let's talk about the kind of seeds or sprouts that somebody should grow. Like for me, if I had this, well, I do have one, haven't used it. It's still in the box. I didn't get out of step 1. I've been too busy. But the other thing is, does this come with seeds, or does somebody have to buy seeds additionally?
Now, you do have to buy seeds, and it's very important to buy organic sprouting seeds, as we already touched upon. Seeds from the garden center may work, but it's very unlikely. Seeds that are grown specifically for sprouting have super high germination rates, because in your garden, if you have a low germination rate, it's not the end of the world. The seeds that don't grow just degrade into the soil, and the seeds that grow come out of the soil. But in a sprouter, if you have even 10% of the sprouts that don't grow, you'll notice that 10% of the barrel with non-germinating seeds is going to stand out, and those seeds will actually end up affecting
and rotting.
The other seeds and rotting them, which will ruin your whole crop. So it's very important. The seed is the most essential part of this process. So as long as you get high quality sprouting seeds, you're good to go.
Yeah, high quality organic sprouting seeds. And one of the things that we offer is we personally test, not only after everything's lab tested and organic tested and certified and all that stuff, we grow every single lot that we sell ourselves a couple times. So that sprouter that's in our office is usually growing a test batch of seeds. And last week we finally found a good batch of sunflower, which we've been struggling to find for a little while, because it's, even though it's got a high germination rate, it didn't meet our standards of quality. So the water unlocks the seed's potential, but if it doesn't pass the
seed
test,
doesn't have potential. It's not going to grow.
You can do anything you want to it. It's like watering a rock.
Yeah, and that's the other thing I talk about, sprouting seeds. If you're just going down to the bulk bins at your local health food store and buying seeds that germinate and sprout, yes, they can grow. You may get ones that don't grow, but the other problem that I see with that is that those seeds are meant for food consumption, not for sprouting. Exactly. and the standards are a little bit different. So, if you find truly sprouting seeds that are organic and tested, and actually all sprouting seeds should also be bacterial tested. And this is why you don't want to just buy some random seeds off, whatever website that's just being sold by the pound. If it's not certified sprouting seeds that have bacterial testing,
right. Because
that's why people can get sick with the sprouts. So do you want to talk just really quickly and briefly on why, because some people might be scared of sprouts. Like, you could get E. coli from sprouts. They have all those outbreaks in the news and stuff, and like.
Well, I will add that there has never been a single case of any illness or outbreak from home sprouting that we know of. So that should allay your fears first. And the second thing is that sprouting is actually one of the most highly regulated agricultural industries there is, because of the scrutiny that it's had in the past because of the issues. But really, all plants are susceptible. It just happens to be that sprouts may be more susceptible because they're in this early development form. But it should be a comfort to know that sprouts are so highly tested and monitored that they are completely safe to eat today.
Also, it's not that sprouts are more susceptible. It's just that everything's been prone. There was the major lettuce outbreak recently, but the sprout industry is just a very, very small industry. And like, we're on the board of directors of the International Sprout Growers Association. There hasn't been any kind of positive marketing in the industry to combat it. So you have all the, you go to a restaurant and it always says raw or undercooked meat, blah blah blah. Maybe that's because of outbreaks. So everything has its outbreak because sprouts are not immune, just like any full-grown plant is. Anything can be contaminated, and sprouts are not more susceptible than that. But because we haven't had any backbone to stand up to and defend ourselves, we're under a little bit more scrutiny. So we are more tested, which makes us actually safer. And like we said, the organic seeds have their natural immune system. So not only are they safe because they're so tested, but you have the plant's immune system. And if sprouts were dangerous, we wouldn't have any produce because everything has to get through the sprout stage. So all your foods would be just as susceptible as a sprout would, because it just grows through. And that good bacteria that we're talking about, that feeds your gut. That's like this probiotic stage. This is like we're working on a marketing push to talk about that with the world. But it's this is really good. This is like the Krauts and the fermented foods movement. This is like exactly the kind of stuff that we get naturally in the microbiome of the sprouts. So very healthy stuff from an organic sprout, and home sprouting is very safe. And just to add to that, if we're ever worried buying sprouts in the supermarket because they're gooey and you think they turned, because sprouts are living, they're very temperature sensitive, and that gooiness often comes from sprouts just getting too cold. Because we're so afraid of bacteria, we keep our refrigerated trucks that things get transported in a little colder rather than a little warmer because they get in trouble if it's too warm. And sprouts, if they're a little wet, still will freeze in that refrigerated truck and they get gooey. So it's not that they've gone bad and they're not that they're dangerous. It's just that these living foods got cold and they're shivering. It's literally, it's what it is. so sprouts are safe. I've been eating sprouts and so has Noah since we were babies. I mean, it's like, this is the thing that's fueled me. I mean, it's so, and we're fine. We've never gotten sick from sprouts.
All right, good deal. So, I would encourage you guys to have the sprouter and then harvest things fresh, as you guys see the guys munching as we're making this video. That's the best way to do it by far. So harvest it fresh and eat it. But if things are getting too mature, too old, or you have to go away on vacation, how can somebody store the fresh sprouts that they grow so that they save the freshest and the longest amount of time in the refrigerator? Like, what's the best way to store them?
So we recommend produce bags, the kind of bags that allow a little bit of airflow or breathability. But sprouts will actually last a little bit longer than typical lettuce in the fridge because that root structure is still intact. And we also recommend our sprout bag for storing it because it's made out of organic hemp fibers and it's breathable on all sides and allows for adequate airflow for the sprouts. So if you have enough sprout bags and you can spare one to store your sprouts in it, that is totally ideal too.
And so how long can the sprouts store after they've been grown?
Up to 2 weeks, really.
Yeah, up to 2 weeks is great. And just to be conscious of that temperature, if your fridge is too cold, then you'll notice it if it's getting gooey off. So, and that also could be the extra water. So just make sure that you put it in the fridge when they're dry. So, if you're watering it in the FreshLife, unplug it so it stops watering, let it drain, and then harvest it. Or before you throw it in the fridge, because if they the water's on them, then they get then they freeze. So just make sure they have adequate airflow, like Noah said, and then because the refrigerator just stunts the growth, they're still alive when we're eating it. And if they're starting to look a little tired when you pull them out a week later, water them, and they'll perk right up again. So,
but of course, the best practice is to harvest them and eat them right then and there, and don't store them at all. Okay, so, but the next thing actually is, what's the proper temperature to store your sprouts at? Because people can set their refrigerator. Like I personally have 3 refrigerators in my house.
Oh, wow.
One set for 34, and that's the one that I keep all my juices. And then I have one set for like around 50 for like more of my tropical fruits, and then one set around 40. So which refrigerator would I use to store sprouts?
The 40.
The 40
The 40.
Yeah.
All right, perfect, excellent. So that's around the ideal temperature for sprouts. Not too cold, not too warm, just right. All right.
Exactly.
All right, cool. So yeah, if I got the sprouter, or when I start using mine, I'm gonna get the broccoli sprouts. And why is John Kohler gonna go broccoli sprouts from your guys' research and what you guys know?
You're probably reading about the anti-cancer fan. Yeah, broccoli's got a lot of press, and for good reason. There's a glucosinolate in the broccoli it's a protein that it's in all brassica foods, and it's in the full-grown broccoli, but it attacks A-type tumor cells. So it's actually attacking the cancer cells and preventing these tumors from growing in your digestive tract. So it's a natural process that's just a simple little protein in the plant that's just more concentrated in the sprout form. So it's even present in full-grown broccolis, but it's not. No one tested it. No one knew about it until they started testing broccoli sprouts because of the ultra concentration you get from sprouts. So it's got a lot of press, and you just Google broccoli sprouts /cancer or whatever, and you'll find a ton of articles about it. But I want to also say the other sprouts in that family, in that brassica family, are also just as healthy for that. So, broccoli is the one that's gotten the spotlight, but if you want to give clover a try, or even alfalfa, which got these great saponoids, the water gets sudsy when you wash alfalfa. That's like soap, saponoids. It all comes from the same place, so it's washing your insides. These are all great, and it's food is your medicine. So broccoli, probably because of the anti-cancer and all that news. Also, the little spicy flavor that you get.
Yeah, it happens to just be delicious too.
It happens to be really good. But yeah, no, Google, do your research and.
Cool. So yeah, but broccoli seeds can be quite expensive. So what are some for people that maybe don't have a lot of money that want to sprout? Like, what are some seeds that they should grow? I would say radishes, because radish seeds are inexpensive, and they also have some of those glucosinolates being in the brassica family.
Yes.
Yeah. So what are some other low cost seeds?
Mustard as well. Mustard is also in that family, and is also a lower cost seed. And then I would also, branching out of that family, alfalfa sprouts are, of course, one of the most recognizable sprouts, and they're delicious and nutritious, and really good for you. Of course, they don't have the same benefits of sulforaphane that glucosinolate Ari was mentioning, but you're still going to get a lot of benefit from eating that. And then simple lentil sprouts. Lentils have to be one of the cheapest seeds available, and they are so delicious and make such a healthy, nutritious, and high protein snack that if you're out there eating potato chips or other snack foods, replace those with lentils. Or green peas and munching on those. That's a great healthy snack that you can replace processed snack foods with.
These mung beans that we've been munching on, these are great. You grow them 2 days old, and you got the little, when they're much shorter, we were talking yesterday with Johnny Juicer about feeding them to our dogs, because my dog loves it. It's like sprout kibble. And, and then you grow them up here, and they get these beautiful shoots and these long. So this has got mung beans are like so much variety in them, and they're sweet on the. I think a lot of us know mung beans from growing up. You get them in Chinese food a lot. They're stir fried, and a lot of the flavors cooked out of them. If you grow your own, it's such a different flavor from eating them in this traditional way that we're used to seeing them. So mung beans are great, and we make a couple mixes too. We have a salad mix, which is 4 types of seeds, and that's much cheaper than broccoli seed on its own.
Good.
It's actually got broccoli rabe, which is a cousin of broccoli.
Oh, cool. So
it's got that kick. It's got a little bit of radish in there, so it's spicy, but not too spicy because it's balanced with clover and alfalfa. So it's 25% of those 4 seeds. That's a great mix. It's a good variety. It's like a salad all in itself, and it's a pretty affordable seed. And 1 to 10, so 10 times the food, the yield for that.
And you guys have a bean mix too?
We do, yeah. Our bean mix has the 2 types of lentils, green pea and
Garbanzo.
Yeah.
All right, cool. Yeah. So what other mixes you guys have? Because actually I would recommend those 2 mixes because that beans are so important, the prebiotic fibers and non-digestible, properties that help kick up your digestive system, and for the the different sprout, the seeds and this salad mix is like anti-cancer. I mean, you pretty much got like a lot of your bases covered.
And the super one is the broccoli blend, which is broccoli rabe, mustard, arugula, and radish.
Oh, that's spicy.
So that's a kicker.
Yeah, and sometimes there's kale in it depending on the season. But actually, our blend, that one shifts a little bit. So those are always the staples. But occasionally, and we'll always update it on our website. But it's always there. Website sproutman.com. I don't think we said that yet. But it's we always update, and sometimes kale makes it in there. Kale sprouts are great. Also, a little even more expensive than broccoli, though. Kale's a pricey one.
So the other thing that I would grow actually are also onion sprouts.
Oh my goodness.
So I mean, you got the kale, and then you got the onion. Once again, those are anti-cancer, and then you got the beans. I think between those 3 families, I mean, you're pretty much covered. So you guys want to talk quickly about the onion sprouts before we go?
Yeah, I love onion sprouts, and I was reading in our dad's book about onion sprouts, and he was saying that because they're more bioavailable and it's a softer cell wall, it'll be less intrusive to your neighbors and friends when you eat a whole bag full of onions.
I can tell you that that's true only to a certain extent.
I've learned that you can still overdo it if people don't like onions, and if you eat an entire pound of onion sprouts, it'll still permeate and people will notice. But they are so potent and so good, and oh man, it's one of my absolute favorites. They do take a couple days to start. It's like they explode out of their seed on day 3. So if you start them,
they have the longest grow time of most of the sprouts that we sell at 10 to 12 days for onion sprouts.
Oh wow.
So.
Yeah, so don't be discouraged if you're used to seeing mung beans, reach the top of your barrel by day 5, and on day 5 you're just seeing them poke out on the onion.
Wow.
They accelerate. They do, but it's the first couple days nothing really happens.
Cool. So I think we pretty much run the gamut of what are sprouts, why you should eat them, how you can grow them easily with a FreshLife Sprouter, or even with a sprout bag by rinsing and washing, the types of seeds you guys should use, some of the varieties of sprouts that might be more beneficial than others to eat. Is there anything else we should talk about before we leave today?
I think that we've covered most things here, and I really just hope that you're inspired to go out there and start growing your own sprouts today, or at the very least eating more sprouts, because they're just such an incredibly important food for us for so many reasons.
And if sprouts aren't in your taste buds, then go for some microgreens. I know John's got a bunch of great videos on growing microgreens, so those are great too. But yeah, we want people to eat more plants. I mean, we were raised vegetarians on a very plant-heavy life. Sprouts are a major portion of our food. Actually, whenever I was traveling, living broke, I survived by eating sprouts because it was the only thing I could afford to eat. So anyone who's coming up with that excuse, we just want people to eat more plants because it's the answer to so many health problems, and we eat so many processed foods. So just going back to the basics and resetting with plants is really important, and sprouts is a really good way to accelerate that.
Yeah, I mean, I would completely agree. You guys make as much of your diet as possible as plants. 100% of my diet happens to be plants. Maybe you guys are going to be at 50, 60, 70, 80, whatever it is. increase your nutrient-dense plants is probably the biggest message. And the sprouts here, of course, are one of the most nutrient-dense foods in the entire planet and plants you guys could be eating. And with the FreshLife 3000 Sprouter, you guys could be growing and harvesting your own fresh sprouts at home, whether you live in an apartment in New York City or whether you live in Moscow or Antarctica or the hot places, the United Arab Emirates. You guys could grow sprouts with the FreshLife 3000. That makes it easy. Just add good quality sprouting seeds and change the water every day, and pretty much
that's all there is to it.
That's all there is to it. So it's the easiest system in the world to use. Once again, if you guys want to buy this FreshLife Sprouter, check the links down below. Once again, I would recommend the 3-tier unit. It's going to cost less per tier and also provide you and your family more sprouts to eat so you can displace the other foods. My goal is to actually displace some of the fresh vegetables I eat with sprouts, which is a good thing, but for most of you guys, displacing the hamburgers, the cheeseburgers, the diet cheese, the vegan processed foods with sprouts is definitely a step in the right direction that I would encourage you guys to do. And the FreshLife makes it easy for you guys to become your own farmer, something I am quite passionate about, as you guys may or may not know. So anyways, if you guys enjoyed this episode with the Sprout Brothers today, want more episodes in the future with them, hey, be sure to give this video a thumbs up. Also be sure to share this video amongst other people so that they can learn about the power of the sprouts and how you guys could easily grow those at home. Also be sure to click that subscribe button right down below so you don't miss out on my new and upcoming episodes. I'll come out about every 5 to 7 days. You never know where I'll show up or what you'll be learning on my YouTube channel and what new appliance I'll be introducing you guys to so that you guys could increase your health.
Hit the bell to be notified too.
Thank you so much. So hit the bell to be notified, and then finally be sure to check my past episodes. My past episodes are a wealth of knowledge, over 500 episodes on this YouTube channel, comparing and contrasting all the different appliances that allow you to process your own fresh fruits and vegetables at home, or even grow them like the FreshLife 3000 Sprouter. So with that, my name is John Kohler with DiscountJuicers.com. Be sure to visit DiscountJuicers.com/YouTube for special promotional offers for our YouTube visitors.